I don't know how long this light, I don't know what the lighting is gonna do, so just bear with me. I don't like this. Wait. Oh, no. Okay, let's go with that. I'm still learning. I'm learning this whole, look over here. Look over here. I'm learning this whole YouTube thing, so bear with me. See, I don't really like the angle of that. I'm like, should I do that? Here are 3 publishing and writing tips that I don't hear talked about very often. Let's get to it. Okay, let's talk about this. I keep forgetting to look at the camera. Look at the camera. Okay, the first tip I have is video games. I'm actually going to pause this on my crazy face right here for a second just to say that I had to re-record a portion of this, and the lighting, as you see now, is just not my favorite. I loved the other lighting, so I'm definitely kind of upset about it, and the positioning is going to be off. It'll kind of go back and forth throughout the video because unfortunately I had to re-record. So, just a heads up, that's what's up with the unfortunate lighting. I have been torn apart by so many video games I have watched. Sometimes more so than the majority of books I've read. The storytelling techniques many games use are so unique to storytelling and so effective. The narration style in video games is unique compared to the narration style in books and the narration style in movies. It's just done so differently. Of course, there's a reason for that. Things that work for video games don't always work for books. However, why aren't we learning more from these tactics and implementing them into our writing? We could be learning so much. Video games like to use a very specific detached narration. At least the video games I watch. I watch a lot of dark games. I watch multiple horror games. They like to use a lot of a really detached style. You're not immersed into the story the same way. It's very detached, it's very reflective. I wrote my duology, Tommy, the Silence duology. I wrote it with that narration style, and I had a blast. My other books have been very immersive, and I love that too, but this has been a blast. Video games, a lot of the ones I watch, also really like to use the looping method. Not as the plot, not as the plot of the story, but just as a method to tell the plot of the story. I find that so fascinating. I think a lot of times in fiction, when I've seen kind of loops, that's more the plot. The character is attempting to break that loop, that cycle, and that's the plot of the story, and that's not bad at all. But a lot of video games will use that looping method as a way to convey the plot, to tell the story, instead of it being the plot. And I think that is fascinating. Another thing video games like to do a lot is having an insignificant main character. The main character does not matter. They are just there to be a narrator. And yes, that makes a lot more sense in the format of storytelling that a video game is. However, I wonder why we don't use that in our writing more often. These different storytelling techniques that we will have to, adapt to work as book form, to work in writing instead of in a video game. But there's still such genius storytelling strategies. I think a lot can be learned from watching or playing video games. I think what a lot of people forget is that writing can be a very visual art form. So let's start writing it that way. Should I hit the camera with this book? No, I shouldn't. Oh, I didn't mean to actually hit it. Tip number 2. Wait. Tip number 2 is the spine of your book. Cover design is talked about a lot. Understandably so. Cover design is very, very, very important. Your cover sells your book. But I don't understand why I don't see the spine being talked about very often. If you are selling solely on the internet, like, the spine isn't as big of a deal because no one's going to see this stuff after they buy it. However, there are two different reasons I think a spine is very important. One, if your book is going to be in bookstores, imagine you're walking through a bookstore, okay? You're looking at the different books on the shelf. 99% of the time, the only thing you see of a book is the spine. You grab a book off the shelf and look at it. You turn it over to see the cover if the spine catches your attention. Reason two, I think the spine is very important. If you are at home, you're deciding what book you're going to read. You're looking at your bookshelf, okay? You want the reader to pick up your book. You don't want your book to be the book they buy and never read. You want the reader to pick up your book after they take it home. They're going to be looking at their bookshelf. They're going to see all of the book's spines. You want your spine to stand out to them. You want them to see your spine and be like, yeah, that book. I've been thinking about it for a while. You want them to be thinking about their bookshelf later on in the day when they're at work or they're driving or they're wherever they are. And you want, when they're thinking of their bookshelf, you want your spine, you want your book to stand out to them so that they remember it. Spine is very important for both sales and for getting your book read after it's sold. Because the honest truth is, we don't read all of the books we buy as readers. We just don't do it. So, spine is so important. Hold on. I have two published books. Beautiful Ink is what I would consider a spine fail. I am not a very big fan of this spine, but there was nothing I could do about it. My cover designer was not the most helpful as far as revisions were concerned. I love the cover, and I wouldn't change it. I'm happy with the cover. Not happy with the spine. It's a whole thing. So this is not a memorable spine. Maybe someone will see this spine and take it off of a shelf, but the main reason they're going to do that is because it's a light color. So it'll stand out. But overall, this is not a memorable spine. This is not a spine people are going to be thinking about. This is not a spine people are going to look at and think, I want to read that book. I think this spine is so much better. Tip number 3 is something I like to call construction pages. Is there a break here? Okay. The main point of a construction page is to isolate the section of your manuscript that you are currently editing. So you have an entirely written draft. Your book is drafted. You are now editing. You're reading through. You come across a scene that needs a lot of work. Oh no. This can be very daunting. Even if it's just like 3 paragraphs, okay, but you know it's not strong. You can tell that it needs the emotional edits. Your characters need to be feeling more. It needs the descriptional edits, the physical world descriptional edits to enhance the emotions. You can tell that it needs more dialogue or less dialogue, or maybe even a whole scene needs to be added in the middle of that scene. Break that scene into 2, add a scene in the middle. I've done that before. Literally anything, okay? What I do in that situation is I open up what I call my construction document. It's just a blank document. I copy that scene and paste it into the construction document. This lets me really zone in on that one scene. This lets me focus. I'm not getting distracted by what's happening up here or what's happening down here. I don't see a word that I misspelled and think, oh, I should fix that, and then I get distracted from the scene and I'm not living in the moment and I'm not really focused. I'm not into it. So if I move this over to the construction document, there's nothing else in that document. It is just that scene. It lets me really narrow in. It lets me get focused. It lets me create such a vivid and rich experience when it might have been lacking a little because I was so distracted. It helps give you focus. It helps give you direction. And then once you're done with that, you can go ahead and copy and paste it back over into your manuscript. You just put it right in there and it fits perfectly. It's my favorite thing. I've done it for every one of my books now. It's my absolute favorite. Probably my favorite editing technique. Highly recommend doing that. It really helps you just create so much more life in that scene. So that's gonna do it for me. That's gonna do it for this video. If you liked it, should I do the whole cringy thing? Not cringy. Should I do the whole, like, call to action thing. If you liked it, subscribe. The camera's over here. If you liked it, subscribe. You. Finger looked so weird. And like the video. Okay, I'm gonna go. Until next time, I guess. Until next time. This book has a J on it, and it makes me happy.